4020.
A lot of the books that you've done have been based around extensive interviews.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is something you used to do for the paper and the magazine.
Yeah.
And then sort of Wigan was turned into 750 greats or whatever it was. No, I'm joking. But we don't seem to have that outlet anymore, do we? There's the extended player interview, particularly of historic figures, is not something that we as a sport do enough of. We keep saying we want to celebrate our heritage, but both, was it Castleford and Warrington came out with their new badges and how they're going to relate it to the history of the club and how long they've been going. And we do pay lip service to it, and some clubs clearly do it very well. But we don't interview or I don't know, fate our star names.
Honestly, as a big Liverpool fan, the difference is unbelievable. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, as a kid growing up, I knew all about the Liverpool players of the 60s because you couldn't escape it. It was just always there.
Is this Liverpool City?
No, sadly not. No,
The
my
Liverpool
knowledge there isn't
not,
quite as
not
good.
Heighton.
This is the round ball sport.
Not Dr. Kukash as well.
Yeah. But when you compare that to rugby league, I think clubs are doing better. I think the heritage numbers is good, and you know.
Heritage rounds in Australia are great.
Yeah, but no, I love the history of the game, and so I was really keen to get ex-player interviews into League Express, and so it ran for about 4 or 5 years, and I did some absolute belters, and then ones I'd already done previously with League Express or Rugby League World. I realised I had enough for ex-Wigan players for a book. So when I interviewed Channy for the first time, it was quite novel for me because by then I'd barely spoken to a current player for a few years, and I interviewed her and was just blown away, and I thought, well, I want to take this further. Got in touch with her again, he fancied doing a book, and there is the book.
So she must have a story that is out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. And again, without spoiling it, because you want people to buy it. And we're hoping to have her on anyway to explain her side of things.
Yeah.
What was it that triggered you? Because obviously, so you've done all these interviews with people who've got stories to tell.
Yeah.
What was it about hers that you thought this is worthy of a wider audience?
Well, I think interviewing a great player is always a privilege, and to speak to someone who's won medals galore and caps galore is absolutely fantastic. But there comes a point where you've spoken to the ball and you've heard it all. What I always want in an interview is something else, just something maybe in their life story that's different. And with Channy, there was just so much there. And it was obvious that she was so willing to open up and talk about things. So there's an awful lot in this book on, for example, she's got ADHD. There's a chapter on ADHD and how it affects her life and how it's affected her rugby career. There's all sorts that she's willing to talk about in terms of, just constant battles with racism and homophobia and misogyny, being a woman playing what is still really sort of regarded by everybody as a man's sport. Battles with mental health, and she just said to me very early on that she'd talk about anything, she'd answer every question, and no subject would be off the table.
So it's not all just a chart of a rugby career.
No, there's plenty of amazing rugby stuff in there, but no, it's just a really astonishing life story. Someone who grew up in Toronto, lived there for 7 years, and then came to Widnes and had to settle into a town with little diversity and just being bullied for the colour of her skin, for example, at a very early age, and it's some really difficult reading in there, but it's a great story, and somebody who, the great thing about Channy is just her personality, and it just comes across brilliantly in the book. She's got such a gregarious personality and outlook on life, and it comes across really well in the book. It's a really funny book at times, and at other times it's a really emotional book and tough to read in places. It just, for what I want from an autobiography, as someone who's read probably every rugby league autobiography there is, it just ticked every box, and it was just one that I really wanted to do right from the outset.
And heading away to Canada to play in the inaugural World Series.
That's
Again,
right.
It's going to be a massive boost for the Ravens.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've got a few players. They've got the London Broncos fullback, haven't they? Lauren Muller. They've got Megan Pakoulis, who played here last year for York. They've got Channy. But I think they'll be up against it with Fiji though, because they've got 6 or 7 NRLW regulars and another 6 or 7 sort of fringe players who have played a little bit over there. It's a bit strange that that's the semi-final, because I think they're the best 2 teams of the 4, but they've gone into the semi-final together, so I suspect the winners of that will then beat I might be proven wrong. That's the beauty of sport. But you'd imagine that they're the best two of the four, and that Nigeria and Ireland will
But
probably
clearly incredibly proud
Yeah.
of that Canadian part of her life.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's three countries that she could play for. She still thinks of herself as Canadian. And there's a story in the book where she got sent a letter saying she was going to get deported, and she sort of realised that it was a mistake, and they managed to overturn it. But her initial reaction was, "Yes, I'm going to be sent home," because that's home to her still. And when she was over here as a young child, she still wanted to go back to Canada. But her mum is English, her dad is Jamaican. So
right.
there's the three countries that she could play for. So what happened with her with England, obviously, was in that Woman of Steel documentary, and I think what happened. But to her, within a couple of months, she was like, right, well, Canada. And I think, I don't know, I get the impression that playing for Canada is probably more enjoyable. In fact, I now think I wish I'd asked her that and I could put it in.
That's the revised
I've thought of about
You got-
five
have you
things
got a
already. Yeah. Thought of about 5 things already that I could have asked her since it got
Put it in
printed.
pencil at the back.
But do you remember those guys about when Wales and Ireland had that really good World Cup in 2000? A lot of their players, you said it's much more enjoyable playing for Wales or Ireland than it is for Great Britain, which was basically the same as England, And I just get that impression that she's already, in playing for Canada, she's already gone to play in Jamaica and Florida and Canada itself, and this will be the 4th tour to the, to North America. Brilliant, in just 3 years. Whereas England are over here playing Wales and France every year. And I just think this is much more exciting and
Sometimes in
great thing to
Featherstone
do.
and Oldham and other
Yeah,
non-Welsh and Irish places. So why are all these games being scheduled for the same time? Not the ones in Canada. That's different. That's a different country and a different competition. That I fully understand. But why are all these internationals, men's and women's, this autumn, all being played at the same time on the same day as the England-Australia Ashes test that we haven't had for 20 odd years that we're all hyping up? That's just
Some of it is because you're trying to exploit different markets. So we've had this conversation about why are France playing Jamaica in a World Cup qualifier.
But that's in France, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
at the
that's
same
fine.
time.
That's fine.
But I think what it's giving is this impression that we could have a 3 or 4 week international programme at the end of the respective domestic seasons where wherever you are in the world you can see international rugby league, and if we can get the standard of that rugby league raised slightly, it becomes a very saleable commercial product. So and I think that's what particularly the NRL have seen, that they've got products domestically that they can get the most out of, and they're very nearly there. But there's international elements, particularly involving Pacific nations, which is why the Pacific Championships are on at the same time as some of the Ashes games, and they just want to be able to say to a broadcaster, you can have wall-to-wall time zone international rugby league.
France, that's fine. The NRL, that's fine. Pacific Championships, fine.
European Championships.
European Championships, fine. Scotland versus Jamaica in Featherstone on the same day as England, Australia.
It's partly because it's a warm-up game for something else. It's for Jamaica going to France.
And it has to be at the same day as England versus Australia.
They want it
I
to...
know, I'm
No,
like you're organising
I
these
think
things.
the logic is that they want to give them a week. So because they're playing France on a Saturday, they didn't really want to play on the Sunday because they want to play, get over to France and start preparing. They could have played Friday night. I don't know how easy it is for Jamaica to get their squad together on a Friday night, or if it's easier to do it on a Saturday, or Featherstone wasn't. Mind you, Featherstone you can buy for 20p at the moment, by the sounds of it.
Got the LED board here.
So is it on the same day as the Wembley test? Or will it be the others?
I think
I think
it's
there are a set of internationals that all seem to be on the same day as
Right, okay.
every single.
Do we know? Do we have a
Australian
number for roughly what they've sold for Wembley?
I think we know that there is at least 45,000 sold,
okay.
but I think the plan is that gets up to near 70.
Right.
And because rugby league fans tend to buy their tickets late, they think there's going to be a rush after this final series.
Yeah.
I think also today I heard an advert for the series on TalkSport,
Oh, that's good then.
but just really for the Wembley test, because it was very much Everton sold out, Headingley sold out. If you want a ticket, come to Wembley. And again, you're talking about an audience that is predominantly south of England audience that just might say, well, for what they're charging, I'll go with that.
The way they sold out the second and third test, I mean, that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I really was impressed with that, and I think that's one of the best news stories of the year. But I mean, 45. So if they end up getting, say, 55 to 60, that would exceed some crowds at Wembley. I mean, it wouldn't be that bad.
No, it wouldn't be bad at all.
The opener of the 95 World Cup was about 40, and I think the final was only 50 something.
I would think that because there's quite a few rugby league people also getting imbued with the final series in Australia at the moment. There'll be a lot of people, because this is 22 years since we've had the last series, that people will want to see the likes of Nathan Cleary on their back door. It's fine in a World Cup, but this is a weekly narrative.
Yeah.
So I think they might get over 60.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised. But what the ticket sales do say is how ridiculous it was to scrap the Ashes in the first place. But also, no one ever really talked about it that much. I mean, I'm sure, it wasn't a big thing, they scrapped the Ashes. It just suddenly... The Tri-Nations came along, and that was pretty good when it was just the three, and it was competitive. But then it just never came back, and no
and again,
one
part
really
of
seemed
that was to do with the identity of Great Britain.
Yeah,
which also seemed to go.
Yeah.
If we'd have said for 3 years it's going to be Tri-Nations,
Yeah.
England, Wales, Scotland might be in when it's over here,
Yeah.
Pacific Nation when it's over there. But every World Cup we're going to have, every 2 years out from a World Cup we're going to have an Ashes series, and it's going to be Great Britain.
Yeah.
But we never said that,
No.
and
Jet
we didn't know
Cleary.
when we were having our World Cup. So
And Jet Cleary's off to play for Ukraine. And Nathan might do one day.
Nathan wants to, but I don't think he ever will.
No, I mean, but
But Jet's playing, yeah.
speaking of Canada, and I know we've got no resource, so this is impossible thing to do. But some of my wife's pen pals are in Canada, and they were banging on about on Facebook over the weekend, because I'm friends with them now, about there's some other game involving Canada's women playing rugby. I don't know what it was, and they were like, "This is the first time they've seen it," and they don't. I was trying to explain. Well, I didn't try to explain because they said to me, "Oh, I'm watching the rugby today." And there's no point in me getting into a philosophical discussion.
No.
Because that's not the
Do you want
point.
to count the number of players?
Yeah.
No, don't go.
So I said, enjoy the rugby. The Canadian women, they're playing a different rugby later. But we need to, we can kind of capitalise on it. I don't know how we do it.
I don't know for certain. And this is clearly not a programme that is ever going
Is that cheeky?
No?
Oh, yeah. Stick it there.
to break exclusives, because we don't do that.
Oh, I've got some scoops for you.
But
I've come armed with them.
I think you may.
Never mind.
I think you may well find that this World Series in Canada is going to be on a Canadian broadcast.
Oh, excellent. Well, I shall tell my Canadian friends. Well, not my
And
Canadian
a
friends.
Canadian broadcaster that they will have heard of.
Oh, well, that's even better.
I asked Channy if some of the rugby union players might go over, but no, it doesn't seem likely. I think at a lower level they can maybe attract some. But I had no idea they were that strong in the women's game in rugby union.
It's odd, isn't it? It's really odd. Only three nations have won that World Cup: England, New Zealand, and the USA.
Right.
Which is very odd.
Right.
I guess in North America, they don't have a physical women's sport because there isn't women's American football or whatever, in the sense that But and of course, as we know now, everyone's going to the NRLW anyway. All the Australians and New Zealanders, they'll be in there.
Well, the next thing would be the England fullback
Ellie Kildone,
who comes from
Keith.
this neck of the woods. If she was snapped up by the NRLW, there'd be a dial shift then. It's almost like John Gallagher signing for Leeds.
Her autobiography is going to be the world's best rugby player? Question mark.
There was no question. At the time he signed, he was the world's best.
Oh dear.
But the amount of media interest that created, and we've spoken about this before, we've written about it, was almost unprecedented. I don't remember walking down St Michael's Lane and seeing media trucks the whole length from all different countries. And that was just because John Gallagher had
Why did he fail so badly? Was it he got an early injury?
He did,
Get a
but
spear tackle
I
or
think it's partly to do with he was rushed into the team in the
Right.
wrong position. So when Jonathan Davis signed, he got a little bit of experience on the wing first to ease him into the game. Gallagher was straight at fullback.
Right.
And at one point,
Okay.
Leeds played the Australian tourists, I think a week or 2 weeks before the first test, and Gallagher had probably his best ever game for Leeds.
It was a competitive game, wasn't
And
it?
they were talking
Yeah.
about, is he going to be the outside bet to be in the Great Britain? But from there he got Like he got dumped on his shoulder at St Helens, spear tackled, and then it sort of went downhill from there.